this is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make a leather bracelet with the drum beads that were in the treasure bag. However, you can use any beads you'd like as long as they'll fit over your leather, and you can make this either very masculine or very feminine. It just depends on with the look that you would like. So this one here is unisex. It could work for either. And I've just used a shank button. And this is just a slide knot closure, so I can just push that little knot on the end, pull this off over my button, perhaps. There we go. And this is what it looks like. So I'm going to put this on and show you what it looks like, and I'll be right back because, you know, I can't do this in frame because I'm not that coordinated. So I've slid it over the button here, this little loop. And then I have this end here. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? There you are. And I can pull this end to adjust it like that. And that's what that looks like on. I think it turned out really cute. I think I'm going to make a couple of these for my sons. I think they would really like these. So this is what the back of it looks like. This is what the front of it looks like. Let me back off a little bit. Today it's a very cloudy day, so it's kind of dark in my studio. So I hope that this is coming through well, but this is what this looks like. And let's go ahead and see what it takes to make this particular project. Okay, for this project today, we will be using leather cording, a button, and some of the beads that were in the treasure bag. However, you can use any bead that will go over your leather. I'm using 2mm in diameter leather. However, you can use a smaller diameter if you would like and fit whatever bead to it you would like. You'll just have to adjust the length of the bracelet as you work because you'll get smaller knots as you work it. Then I'm going to use this shank button. Now this is a really old button. My mom used to collect buttons and put them in a tin, and they've been around forever. I don't know how old this button is, but it's going to work perfectly for this, so I'm going to use it. You can see the back is kind of peeling. Oh well, I don't care. It's vintage. So you just need to have a shank that's big enough for your leather to fit through it, and you can use any shank button you would like. I'm going to use 5 of these beads, and again, if you're using something smaller and a smaller diameter, whatever, you can use a few more. You'll just have to adjust according to what you're using. So let's go ahead and get started with this particular project. Okay, to start this project, take your leather and just run it through your fingers and kind of work it a little bit so you can make it a little bit more flexible, straighten it out a little bit, make it just a little bit more pliable to work with. And then once you have done that, put your one end of your leather through your shank button. And then bring your short part that you brought through the bead underneath the long length of leather, just like this. And then you're going to bring the long length of leather up through the loop, just like this, creating another loop. You're not going to pull it all the way through. Now you're going to pull your tail like this, and then you are going to find on your loop that you've created the side that has tension. So one side will make your loop bigger and one side will have tension. So you pull on that side and then you pull on your tail. Pull on the tight side and pull on the tail. And you're creating a little knot underneath here. Let me get you in closer. Now you can pull on the long length, which will reduce the size of your loop, just like this. Now you want to position to where the loop that you've created here is right over the long length of your leather, just to keep your knots consistent. Then go through that loop and pull your leather up, making sure as you pull it through you have both sides of your leather parallel. And then pull on the tight side of your loop and bring that little knot that you're creating down a little bit tighter. And then you can pull on the long length and reduce the size of your loop, and then pull on the tight side again, just to ensure that you have enough tension on that. Let me back off just a little more. Now, on the other side, I'm going to pull on my tail just to tighten that. And then I'm going to position it back to where I have this loop, both sides are parallel. I'm going to push it over the top of my leather like this. I'm going to increase the size of the loop by pulling on the loose side of the loop, and I'm going to go through the loop and pull my cording back up through, position it to where both the cords are parallel, and then pull on the side that has tension and bring that down to a decent sized little knot under the button here. Then I can reduce the size of the loop by pulling on the long leather and then pull on the tight side again, just so I get a nice sized little knot. Then you want to bring your leather back underneath your loop so it looks like this every time. You can keep consistent that way. Then bring your leather back up through. Make sure that the two ends lie parallel next to each other. Pull on the tight end, which on my piece, it's my right hand that's pulling on the tight end, and my left hand that can reduce the size of the knot, and then my right hand that can pull on the tight end again until I get my knot the way I want it. Now, sometimes you can pull it off to the side, just squeeze it in, because sometimes the little knot will squish over to the side and then you'll have a funny looking knot. You can just squeeze it back in and it should look like this. Then, of course, you want to bring your leather, your long length, back underneath your loop and just increase your loop enough to get your fingers through it and pull your leather through again, through that loop. Now, working with a smaller leather will be a lot easier. I'm working with a pretty large diameter here. And now I'm creating my new loop here. I'm going to pull on the side that has tension, the right side, and then I'm going to pull on the long length of cord and reduce the loop, and then pull on the tight side again. And then I'm going to squeeze my knot together, because when I do that, I kind of pull it off to the side and it gets funky looking, and I don't like it. So I'm getting pretty good sized knots. I want to do about 1 3/4 inches to 2 inches of knots before I start my beads. So I am going to, you'll have to judge that according to how big your knots are, how much tension you have on them. So we're going to go over the top of the cord again with the loop and pull the cord through. And then once you get it in, lay the two pieces of cord parallel and find the side. Now see, I switched mine. You have to be careful. The side that was tight was the right side. So if you have it twisted or you have it wrong, then you'll know you've been pulling on the right side and you're pulling on the left side now. You need to turn your loop around. So just make sure that you're always pulling on the same side to tighten and the same side to reduce the loop, just like that. And you'll keep your knots consistent, because it's really easy to get them turned around. Once I have the size knot I want, I squeeze it so that it gets the shape I want again, and then I will go bring my loop again right underneath, right over the top of the cording, pull the cording through, and make sure that my knot is consistent. So I had it twisted. So I know now, see, the loose side here was not here before. So I can just kind of turn it and get my loose side back, put them parallel this way, and my loose side is on this side now, and my tight side is on this side, and I know I'm going to have a consistent knot. So that's just, you want to make sure they're parallel, but they can look parallel and still be twisted. So if you've been pulling consistently on one side and then reducing your knot on the other side, and suddenly you're not, you know that you need to turn your leather a little bit and reposition it. So this is what this should look like. So now I've got, let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to do 6 of my loops. Or you can place this in the middle of your wrist And when it starts to come over the top, that's where you know your beads you want to start your beads. So I am going to go ahead and do one more and then start my beads, because that way I'll be right about here on my wrist. So I have positioned my leather again to where both sides, oops, hit my lamp, both sides are parallel next to each other, and I'm going to pull back through again. And again, my right side is my tight side, so I have to kind of switch my leather around and make sure that I'm bringing them parallel the same way I was before. So I have to make sure that this right side is the one I'm pulling on, and then I'll reduce with the left side, and then pull my right side again, and then squeeze my knot into looking halfway decent. Okay, so I've got that last knot right there. Now I'm going to pick up a bead, and I am going to put it on my leather and bring it all the way so that it is positioned underneath my loop like this. My loop, I want to make sure, is big enough to go over the bead, and then I'm just going to create a loop through the loop like this. Now again, I want to make sure that I position it to where I'm pulling on the right side. So I had to bring my leather under, did you see that? And pull so that I'm still consistent. And I'm just positioning my leather so that it's fairly neat around that bead, just like this. And then I am going to reach through this loop and grab, let me get that a little tighter. So I'll pull on my tight side, reduce my loop with my long length, and then I'll bring another loop through the loop that I have. Okay, again, I need to turn my leather so that I'm pulling tight on the right side here. And then I can reduce with the left side, and then I can tighten again. I can position my leather around my bead the best I can. It will be a little bit kind of diagonal with these drum beads if you're using those. And then once I get that, I can squeeze my knot together and pull on this tight side again, get it nice and positioned the way I like it. And then I am going to grab another bead, put it on my leather, and draw it down. Bring it to where the loop is just right over, just like this. And I push it down into the loop a little bit here. And then I will create another loop with my leather. So I have to grab my leather through this loop, create another loop coming through the loop, and pull the right side until I can get it kind of tight. I'll position it around my bead. Make sure that both of the pieces of leather are up on top of the bead and not to the side, because they like to fall to the side. And just position it the best you can like this. Okay, let me back off just a little. I seem to be shading myself. I don't know what's up with my lamps today. And then I'm going to go back through the loop, pull my long length of leather, making sure that as I do this, my right side is the side that's tight, so I know that I have my correct knot here. Bring my leather around my bead, adjust the tension by pulling the right side, then I'm going to reduce by pulling the long length of leather, the left side, and then tighten again. And then I can pick up another bead. And we'll just continue doing that until we have all 5 of our beads. Let me grab down another one. Put it in the middle of the loop, so I'm going underneath the loop with it, kind of forcing it in there. And then I'm going to create another loop with my leather. So I'm going to hold on to my bead and I'm going to pull my leather. Now again, I want to make sure that my pulling on side is on the right side. So I'll just adjust my leather as it comes through until I have the right side that I can adjust with. Then I'll reduce my loop by pulling on the long length on the left side here. And then I will grab another loop through the loop. And make sure my right side is the tight one. And just adjust this, because this is the knot that's going to hold your bead. So right there. And I'm going to adjust this, I'm going to reduce it. And you can see I'm using rather nice force on this so that it stays in here nice. And we're just going to continue. So put your next 2 beads on, and once you've tied your little knot after your last bead, we'll come back and we'll finish up the bracelet. Okay, so I have put all of my beads in, as you can see, done my last little securing knot. So you put your bead through and then you do your next knot like you would be doing to put another bead on. And then you just stop there, putting the beads on, of course, and then we're going to do some of our knots. So again, I have to go through my loop, pull my leather up, pull my right side to tighten it, and I'm just going to make several stitches. I'm squeeze my knot back together so that I can make the end of my bracelet. So I may do, I think I did 6 on this side. I think I'm going to do 5 on this side and then do my sliding knot for my closure. So I have 2, and then I'm going to go through and pull another one through. Keep my leather neat here. And pull my right side and then straighten it up and get it consistent with the previous knot. The previous knot is a little bit too big, so I can pull on the right side of my new knot and then pull on this one that I've just created and just get them as neat as I can, and then make another and reduce my knot, or my loop anyway, and pull this until I get it somewhat consistent with the previous one. The previous one's kind of big, but that's okay. Do another one. And again, I've got my leather backwards because my right side is not working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just bring this out of my loop, grab this loop, and then do this again by bringing my leather up through on this side first, and making sure as I draw it through so that it's parallel like this. And let me get you in closer. It's a cloudy day today. I think it's kind of dark in my room, so I'm sorry if my footage is a little dark. Okay, so I'm trying to get my knots as consistent as I can. And now I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 5. So I'm going to see how this is going to go on my wrist. This is going to be my sliding knot here that will go around my button. So I'm going to see if I have enough or if I need another loop. So I'm just going to put it around my wrist and bring this up. See if I can actually do this. I think I'm going to have to make one more knot. So I have to get back in the position I was before to where my leather is underneath, just like this, on the same side I've been working on, and organize it the same way and pull in another knot here. Okay, so once I've done this, now I think that I want my sliding knot to be right here. This will be my actual loop for my clasping. So what I have to do is I have to tighten as much as I can the previous knot down on this one. So I'm going to pull the tight side and just tighten it down so that that previous knot draws really tight around this loop. And now I can adjust by pulling the longer length here. So now I can put it on my wrist and see if it's the length I want. So I'll just put it on. Maybe. And then I can cinch it down. So yeah, I think that's going to work fine. So I am going to take this off. And again, I'm going to tighten this last knot because I was messing with it. So I want to make sure it's nice and tight. All right. And I can still adjust. So there is where I want my end to be. I'm going to adjust it until it looks halfway decent. I'm just playing with it until it looks the way I want it to look and functions the way I want it to function. All right. Okay, so now this will allow me to open and close the loop as much as I want. I'm going to tie a knot right about here and tie a fairly decent knot. You could put a bead, if you can find one that will fit over your leather. You could put a bead on here and then tie your knot if you would like. But I'm just going to make a loop and tie a knot right about here. So that will give me quite a bit of adjustment. That might even be a little too much. Let's see if I can undo that. I think I'll make that a little shorter because this is big as it is. So I think I'm going to reduce it just slightly. Move my knot up a little bit closer to the end of my bracelet here. Yeah, right about there. Okay, so now I can cut this off. You can put a little bit of glue in that knot to hold it too. I'm going to pull it a little tighter. Pull it tighter before you cut your stuff. And then I am going to just color the end of it here. And then you can put a little dot of glue inside there so that it holds. You don't really want to put glue on this end because you want this to be able to slide so you can adjust around your button. And then I am going to adjust my beads here, make sure I have the tension the way I want it, make everything look halfway decent. And then on this side, I am going to get you real close here. I'm going to take this end and I'm going to put it, you can see there's a little loop where I tied my knot. I'm going to try to put it through that loop. It's pretty tight, but I'm going to see if I can do it. And let's see if I cut it diagonal, if it'll go through there. If not, I'll just tie a knot and leave it this way, but I'd like to get it through there if I can. So I've just cut this diagonal so that it's narrow and I can push it through here. And if I can't, like I said, that's fine. It's tight enough then, and I can just tie a knot. So I'm going to take this end and I'm going to tie a knot. Bring it real close to that knot. And just tighten it. And that will keep my bracelet from falling apart. And then I'll cut this off. You can put a knot of glue in there, or a knot of glue, yes. You could put a knot of glue in there. You could put a little drop of glue in there, and that end. And now I can adjust it. Now one side, your beads are going to be up a little bit higher than the other. You can decide which side you want to be your front and just adjust your button to that side. So I'm going to have this side be the front. And I'm just going to adjust everything so it looks really nice, give it a little flexibility. And then I can bring let's see, this around, put my button in it, and then I can adjust my closure like this. And this is what this looks like. Now you can, like I said, put a little bead here, put a knot and a bead and a knot, or whatever you'd like to decorate it up a little bit more. But that's what the end of it looks like. And I am going to just straighten it up to where it looks halfway decent. And then I'm going to put it on my wrist and see if I actually have a bracelet that fits. So I can just push this little guy here and make my loop bigger, and then I'm going to do this over here because I'm going to drop it a million times, and oh, actually I'm not. So I can put that on there and then tighten it up, and I can make this a little shorter. This is a little long, but I can make it shorter, and that's what that looks like. And it would make a really nice, I've got my button twisted or something. I'll put that on better in a minute. But yeah, this would make a really nice gift for like one of my sons, or I mean, it can go either way. You can do these beads more, or this bracelet more masculine or feminine, just by choosing your beads and your color of leather, and you can make it. So I have got to put this on right because I twisted it. That is the issue here. So let me take this off and put it on correctly. There we go. That's a little better. And again, like I said, this is a little long for me. I think I'll reduce it down to about here, tie my knot, and that's what that looks like. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and you try making one. The main point with this is just to stay consistent with the way you're making your knots. It's very simple. You may have to practice once or twice. So try some on some leftover leather and just make a little space of it and see how you're doing, and then go for making one. And it's really very simple. It's like the chain stitch in crochet. We're just using our fingers basically, just a slip knot. So anyway, that's what that looks like, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Bye-bye.